All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 110 of Sports Hype. Once again, we have a lot to get through as NBA free agency is underway and a lot of deals have been made in this past week. First and foremost, Jason Tatum became the highest paid player in NBA history by gaining a 5 year, $315 million Supermax contract extension from the Boston Celtics. So, me and my co host will give our thoughts on that and whether we think he was overpaid or paid just right. Franz Wagner also signed a huge deal with the Orlando Magic. He signed a 5 year, $270 million deal with them. That was a contract extension, rookie contract extension. So we'll give our thoughts on that as well. The Pistons intend to sign Cade Cunningham to a 5 year, $226 million rookie contract extension. So we'll give our thoughts on that. And then the biggest free agent of them all so far is Paul George signing a 4 year, $212 million max contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, where many expected him to go. Finally came to fruition. So we'll give our thoughts on that. The 76ers also signed their co star Tyrese Maxey to a 5 year, $204 million contract extension. Donovan Mitchell did sign a 3 year, $150.3 million max contract extension with the Cavaliers. So we'll get the Cavs fans' thoughts on that. Derek White agreed to 4 years, $125.9 million contract extension with the Celtics. So give our thoughts on that. LeBron James did decide to stay with the Los Angeles Lakers. There was rumors of him taking a pay cut. That did not happen. He instead signed a 1+1 deal. He signed a 2 year, $104 million max deal to return to the Lakers, but technically it's really a 1 year deal because after this year is a player option for him. So we'll give our thoughts on that deal and whether that was the right move for his career. Um, Patrick Williams intends to sign a 5 year, $90 million deal to return to the Chicago Bulls. Isaiah Hartenstein agreed on a 3 year, $87 million deal with OKC, which I think was a big get for them as they lacked size last year. So we'll give our thoughts on that and what it does for them in this upcoming year after nearly making the finals this year. Orlando Magic and Jonathan Isaac agreed on a 5 year, $84 million contract extension. Miles Bridges agreed to a 3 year, $75 million deal to return to the Hornets. Klay Thompson agreed to a 3 year, $50 million deal to join the Dallas Mavericks through a three-team sign and trade. Josh Green went to the Hornets in that sign and trade, and 2 second-round picks went to the Warriors. So we'll give our thoughts on that massive deal and what it does for all three of those teams. The Warriors did not take long to replace Klay Thompson, though. They agreed to a sign and trade with the 76ers for Buddy Hield, and the Warriors got Buddy Hield for a second-round pick. So we'll give our thoughts on that deal. James Harden signed a 2 year, $70 million deal with the Clippers. Contavious Caldwell-Pope signed a 3 year, $66 million deal with the Magic. That really came out of nowhere. It surprised a lot of people. So we'll give our thoughts on that and what it does for the Magic. Tobias Harris went back to Detroit, agreeing on a 2 year, $52 million deal with the Pistons. Jonas Valanciunas also surprised a lot of people going to the Wizards for 3 years and $30 million. Derek Jones Jr. signed a 3 year, $30 million deal with the Clippers. So they replaced Paul George with Derek Jones Jr. We'll give our thoughts on that and if it will replace, well, not replace, but replace Paul George in a decent way. Obviously, he can't replace Paul George, but I think it was a good get to replace Paul George, try and replace Paul George and what he did for the Clippers. Najee Marshall signed a 3 year, $27 million deal with the Mavericks. So we'll give our thoughts on that. Mo Wagner agreed to a 2 year, $22 million deal with the Magic. The Warriors did waive Chris Paul. He wasn't on the market for long as he then signed with the Spurs for 1 year, $11 million for the chance to play with Wemby. So it's going to be a dynamic duo over there. Give our thoughts on that. And then to wrap it up, a few coaching hires. JB Bickerstaff agreed on a 5 year deal to become the Detroit Pistons head coach, and the Lakers hired Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks as top assistants for JJ Redick. So we'll give our thoughts on all of that right now in this episode, starting with the highest paid NBA player in NBA history now. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I do want to, mention real quick, Kyrie Jackson. Very
Yes.
unfortunate that happened to that young man who recently just got drafted, into the Vikings. Didn't get to see, his true potential at all. Really sad to see a young man like that. Being that's type of an accident. That's why it is so dangerous. Not just for him, but for people to be driving under, the influence, because you're not, really paying attention to yourself. But being on the receiving end of that accident, Kyrie Jackson Kyrie Jackson died, and it was unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely rest in peace to him. Very sad to see. He just completed his dream of getting to the NFL, and he didn't get to fulfill that dream, unfortunately. So always tell your loved ones you love them, because you just never know when they might say goodbye to you without you knowing.
For sure.
But rest in peace to him, and prayers out to his family as well. But getting to the episode, starting with Jason Tatum signed a 5-year, $315 million Supermax contract extension. What is your thoughts on the largest contract in NBA history?
Well-deserved money, NBA champion, top 10 player in the NBA. Is he the best player in the NBA though? No. How are the Celtics able to pay him, Jaylen Brown, now Derek White, and the
Well, it's
other
crazy. It's crazy. They paid Jaylen Brown $304 million, as we touched on in the other episode.
Right.
And they pay Tatum $315 and White $125.9. So where are they getting this money?
Where are they getting this money? Other than that, how much money do they have left for the remaining pieces that they needed in order to go back to back? It's just, I feel like it's a selfish move by these types of players. Yeah, you should get the bag because you don't know when you're going to get it again. With Carmelo Anthony, getting the bag with the Nuggets back in the day, it's understandable. But if you want to win a championship, if you think winning's more important than money, money will always come to you, right? If you're good enough, money will always be there for you. But the thing is, I don't think they want to win as much as they do, as much as they say, because if you want to win, you take that pay cut. You readjust your contract so that you can keep these key pieces, like I want to say Pritchard, right? Like a
Hauser.
Hauser, and a multitude of other players that are key in your depth, like an Al Horford, like a Kristaps Porzingis. You had I feel like a nine-man rotation last year, and you can't keep them all if you're paying these players this amount of money.
Yeah, I agree. When I saw the contract, I was a little shocked they paid him that much. Obviously, like you said, Tatum is one of the best players in the NBA, and he deserves this type of money.
Right.
But you think about it, and you think about everything you just said, how are they going to keep their depth? The answer is simple. They're not going to be able to, with paying Jason Tatum $315 million, Derek White $125 million, and now Jaylen Brown $304 million. Those three alone are taking up pretty much your entire cap space. You're going to have to let go of somebody eventually, whether it be in a year or two. Maybe they're just trying to win now, and that's why they did it. But if you're not trying to win in the future, if you're trying to win in the future, these type of contracts are going to hinder that.
100%. But at the same time, even if you are trying to win now, right? Let's think about it. You're paying JT $50 million plus dollars. You're paying Jaylen Brown, what is it, $50 million, $40-something million a year?
Jaylen Brown, yeah, around there.
Right around there. Okay. Now you're paying Derek White, what was it, $100 million, 3-year deal, 4-year deal?
Derek White's 4-year, $125.9.
Okay, so let's just say you're paying him around 28, 27, right? Somewhere around there. Then you're is Kristaps still on the deal? Is Al Horford still getting paid? Hauser and Pritchard are up for contracts, I'm sure, soon.
I think Kristaps still on deal. The rest are up for contracts, though. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, how are you able to pay these types of players? You're paying $100 million for 2 players right now per year. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
You cannot. You can't. And this is, I think we're going to touch on this with the Lakers, but you cannot be paying your players $100 million out of 2 players. You can't, reach the depth that you need in order to win a championship nowadays.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, the depth is the biggest reason why they won. People are saying it's their starting lineup. Their starting lineup is, yes, their starting lineup is like the Avengers, sure. But without their bench, they're not winning the championship, in my opinion. Like their bench coming in and being better than every second unit in the entire NBA is what put them over the top.
Right. And you need your bench to carry the momentum that your starters, create, right? Look at Pritchard. He made timely threes. Look at those two buzzer beaters. That deflates your team. If you're the opposition, you're deflated after Pritchard makes those two threes, those two buzzer beaters. Hauser, again, his release timing is incredible. It's less than a second, right? It's like a sixth of a second, right? So, and he knocks down threes like it's nothing. So when that happens, it deflates the opposition. When you don't have the depth and you rely solely on your starters, look at what happened with the Denver Nuggets this year. Look at what happened with the Los Angeles Lakers. Look at what happened with the New York Knicks. There's a plethora of great, teams that have a great starting lineup, but not a great bench to where they don't go far in the playoffs because of it.
Right. And these type of contracts, like you said, are going to eventually they're going to keep their team together for probably, I'll say, another year or two at most. Right. And then they're going to have to let some of these players go because they already have Tatum tied up to this contract, Derek White and Jaylen Brown tied up to insane contracts as well. Some of these players are going to want a lot of money that you're not going to be able to offer them, and other teams will.
100%.
So, I mean, obviously, Tatum's a great player. He does deserve this contract, but I also think it's a little bit of an overpay considering the circumstances for the Celtics.
It is an overpay, and we didn't actually see Tatum's full potential. I mean, yeah, he averaged 20 and 10, but that is nothing. That is nothing. If people want to compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan, right, let's start comparing these great players to LeBron James, okay? Because if you want to really see, great finals numbers, want to see a great finals performance, LeBron James has done that every single time. Other than that first Mavericks appearance, right? First appearance with the Miami Heat, against the Mavericks. He has performed outstanding in the finals. Jason Tatum has not. Compared to LeBron James, nothing. Jaylen Brown, nothing. The only players that I could say have had those types of finals performances, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry have all had amazing finals performances that couldn't be compared to like LeBron James-esque. These Celtics guys they haven't done anything to me. They have not proven anything to me to where they can say they're the best. They had a great all-around team, and that is because of Brad Stevens, 100%.
Yep, 100%. I mean, like, if people are saying, "Oh, Tatum helped the Celtics win the championship," like, yeah, of course he did. But if you look at the efficiency and the numbers, it was not a great performance at all. The numbers are lying. If you don't look at the efficiency is what you should be looking at. I think he shot 35-40% maybe, and for a player of his caliber, me personally, I'd expect 45 to 50% in the finals.
Right, 100%. And if you look at it, you expect him to have these great, remarkable finals performances. Oh, he's a top 5 player in the league. Okay. Is he really, though? Because we saw Giannis do it in the finals. We saw Jokic do it in the finals. We saw Steph Curry do it in the finals. I wouldn't even say who else is top 5 right now? I mean, JoJo hasn't been there. He doesn't show up in the playoffs. James Harden used to be there, but he doesn't show up in the playoffs. There's only a couple guys that I could say are actual superstars in the NBA. And that's because they show up in the finals. People want to tell me that I discredit the Celtics. Fine. Let me know. Like, seriously, I don't believe I'm discrediting the Celtics. I'm just saying, for these, individuals, I'm just saying, as a collective, this is why they won the NBA Finals. It is because of Drew Holiday. It is because of Derek White. It is because of Jason Tatum. It is because of Jaylen Brown. As a collective unit, it is because of Kristaps Porzingis in Game 1. He won ridiculous in Game 1. So as a collective unit, yeah, they are champions. Individually, no way am I saying, okay, this one guy carried the team, or who carried the team. It's not like that. There is not a leader. It is a collective unit.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they can say that all they want, but just look at the Celtics finals run. In pretty much every matchup before the finals, obviously, they had the star player was hurt. Tyrese Halliburton in the Eastern Conference Finals, he got hurt. Jimmy Butler, first and foremost, got hurt before even playing the Celtics, didn't even get a chance to play in that series. And then obviously Donovan Mitchell wasn't fully healthy, and then Jarrett Allen on top of that. If they run into one of these healthy teams, we will never know what could have happened.
I agree, but I don't want to say what if. I do want to congratulate them on a finals run. I personally don't what. So we were talking about the contract. This is what started out as contract talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe this is necessarily the best option the Celtics could have done. He deserves the money.
No,
He's a
I mean,
champion.
look
All
at
respect to him.
like we'll make a football analogy. Look at what Patrick Mahomes does. Like he could be making millions of dollars, which he did, but then they started winning, and he was like, you know what? Let me lower my contract a little bit so you guys can go out and get players that can help me win, which is what I want.
Yeah. So I mean, if they want to pay him that whatever 315 just to say, oh, we're paying the highest paid player and he's on our team, kudos to them. But realistically, if you guys want to win, if you guys want to get number 19, if Jason Tatum believes that he's probably one of the best to do it, if he wants to be talked about as one of the greats, then we could have another discussion later on because of the legacy he's creating for himself. But I don't think they're going to go back to back. I don't think they're going to get 3 championships. I don't think he's going to be a top scorer in the league. He's not going to be a scoring champion. He's not going to be defensive player of the year. He's just going to be remembered as an amazing player, right? I mean, who in the night? He's not going to be even compared to Hakeem. I mean, I'm trying to think of guys who have won one championship that could be compared to him. People are trying to tell me that Allen Iverson, right? Charles Barkley, he's better than those 2 guys. Are you insane? Are you guys insane?
People overhype Jason Tatum a lot. I've realized that, especially during the finals run. I realized it specifically. He was not the one that carried them. There was no carrying first and foremost. But if we do want to say that someone carried them to the finals, that would be Jaylen Brown, his sidekick.
I would say partner in crime. I wouldn't say sidekick. I would say they're equally leaders on that team. But to say that they're better than Charles Barkley or an Allen Iverson just because he won a championship doesn't mean anything.
I mean,
right?
the championships. I say this in the GOAT debate all the time. Rings don't necessarily make someone better than somebody. What makes them better is the efficiency and the stats. If you look at those 2 things and they got better stats and better efficiency, and then the eye test, they pass the eye test, then yeah, you could say they're better.
That's the whole reason, right? It's to me, you nailed it right on on the head. You can look at the efficiency, you can look at the statistics, but it's the eye test. It's the way Michael Jordan won those 6 championships, right? It's the way how dominant LeBron James is. No one can stop him. He's a locomotive. It's the dominance we saw with Derrick Rose before he got hurt. It's the dominance we saw with Tracy McGrady before he had all those injuries. It's the dominance we saw with Charles Barkley and Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson carried his team, which one of the worst, constructed teams ever in the NBA, to the finals. And he took a game. He took a game from the Los Angeles Lakers, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal. Are you kidding me right now? That's insane, right? So, in that respect, we have to acknowledge those greats. right? And the way they won, the way they played the game, in accordance to how Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown won their finals, won their championship.
Yeah, 100%. Because they didn't have to carry a team like the likes of LeBron James had to on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Dwayne Wade had to on the Miami Heat. They had, like you said, a collective unit that
Right.
it was not one person that carried them to the finals. It was a team unit.
Um, yeah, for sure. Here's the thing too. When have we seen, other than LeBron James, right, a player who is the highest paid player in the NBA win a championship?
I mean, we never have. And like you said, they're not going. It's very hard to go back to back in the NBA. 6 years. There's been 6 years since a team went back to back in the NBA. The
And
parity in
it,
the NBA is at an all-time high, and everyone just got better to take down the Celtics. They now have a target on their back.
um, and it took a team that probably would not have been beat unless they beat themselves with injuries, right? It was the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant. They had 4 to 5 All-Stars on their team per year. So they went to 3 straight finals with that team constructed, right? With the Kevin Durant team. They won 2 out of the 3, and the third one they lost because of the injuries. So realistically, if none of those guys got hurt, they would have three-peated. They would have probably kept the team together. They would have four-peated, five-peated, whatever you want to say. They wouldn't have never lost because of that team constructed. So imagine if that team wasn't constructed. This is the whole point. Imagine if that team was constructed. We wouldn't have seen a back-to-back, championship run.
Exactly. So, like, everyone's like, "Oh, they're so good. They're gonna go back to back." No, bro, it's not that easy.
No, you need a team filled with greats, right? Like, I'm not saying that these guys aren't greats. I'm just saying Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Ray Allen. You had the greatest shooter of all time. You had LeBron James, the greatest player in the league, possibly the greatest player ever. Dwayne Wade, the third best shooting guard ever, right? Chris Bosh, an elite big that stretched the floor, right? Shane Battier. I mean, just thinking about it, it's crazy. You had these guys on the team to go back to back, right? You had the guys on the Warriors to go back to back. You had the greatest shooter of all time, Kevin Durant, probably the greatest scorer of all time, Klay Thompson, top 5 3-point shooter of all time. I could go on and on. Draymond Green was the best defender in the league. Now you look at the Celtics. Now they're making money. Now it's how can I get the bag? How can I make myself better individually instead of why don't we run this back? I'll take $5 million off. You should reconstruct your contract, Jalen. We'll get better. Why can't we get better? Why can't we add another depth piece, right? On top of the championship team so we can make sure we win it back to back. No, they don't want to do that. They want, they're looking for themselves. They're, an individual type player. I don't like it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You just won a championship and you don't want to go back to back. You're not making the moves. You're not making the right mental state. You're not in the right mental state to go back to back. This is why we're going to see another champion next year.
Yep, I 100% agree. Definitely not the smartest move by Jason Tatum or the Celtics for that matter, but we'll see how it plays out.
For sure.
But moving on to Franz Wagner signing a 5-year, $270 million contract extension with the Orlando Magic. What is your thoughts on that?
Who's with the Orlando Magic?
Franz Wagner.
Yeah. So I love this move for them. He's a great young talent. I also love that, obviously you stated that Mo got a 2-year deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving that they're keeping the brothers together. They're two great players. It's not like they can't play. So I love both of those signings, both of those extensions. Now it's time for them to gain a little bit more experience, a little bit more depth, because obviously they could have beat the Cavaliers. They brought it to a Game 7. Anyone could win it in Game 7. Next year they're gonna have more experience, and I can't wait to see what they do. Paolo is gonna get better. Franz is gonna get better. Mo's there. Wendell Carter's there. it's a great young team, and I can't wait to watch them. They're going to be really fun next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great move. I mean, Franz Wagner is a key cornerstone for the Orlando Magic, so they had to get him signed before he hit free agency. So this is a great move by the Magic. And like you said, they're a great young team. They're going to surprise some people, in my opinion, and I could see them making it to the second round, maybe even the conference finals, depending on how they gel next year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was unfortunate they couldn't get Paul George or Klay Thompson, but they, they kept their key piece, they kept their core together, and that's probably the best move they could have done because they already had the chemistry. Now they just got to build on top of it and create that momentum and that success, road to success for the future, so that they can possibly reach second round next year for the conference finals.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and they also did add KCP, which we will touch on in a little bit, which is a big get as well.
For sure.
But moving on to a little lowly franchise in the Detroit Pistons. They do intend to sign Cade Cunningham to a 5-year, $226 million rookie contract extension. So what's your thoughts on that?
You said who signed it? Sorry.
Cade Cunningham.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing what he's doing. Getting the bag.
He's young. He's young. He just doesn't really care.
He's the face of the team. I think he's a loyal kid to the organization.
Yeah.
Is he going to win there? Probably not. But we said that about Orlando. We said that about probably the Bucks before Giannis became Giannis Antetokounmpo. So if Cade can turn it around, if he can have that organization and those young guys around him turn around like the Orlando Magic did, then obviously I love this move. I think it's probably the right direction for the Pistons, but it's going to be a risky one for Cade Cunningham in his future. But I like it. We'll see what happens. It's a young team.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I was Cade, I would have gotten out of there. But I mean, he's young. He just wants the money. He doesn't really care about winning right now, I don't think. Later on in his career, if they're still at the bottom of the barrel, I'm sure he'll decide to leave and pull. I feel like he's like a Damian Lillard type of player where he's loyal for a majority of his career. And then once he realizes that he has no chance of winning at that organization, if that ever comes down to it, then he'll decide to pull the trigger and leave. But I think that right now, at this stage of his career, it's the right move. Get his money while he can, and then later on in his career, if there's, like I said, if they're still at the bottom of the barrel, go to a team where you can have a better chance at winning.
For sure, but here's the thing with me. I mean, I feel like they're in the NBA because they are so competitive, right? These guys are the most competitive people you're ever going to meet in anything.
Yeah.
So I think they all want to win to an extent, right? But you do have to factor in, can I get the bag to help support my family? Can I make sure that generations are set, and are in line to be, set for the future? So you have to put that into account. But I wouldn't question his willingness to win. It's more the fact, can I get everything set before we start winning?
Yeah, I could see that. I think he definitely does want to win. I think he probably thinks he has a chance to win at Detroit as well, but it's mostly because he probably is trying to get himself right and his family right first and foremost, and then do the rest.
And I do want to not take it back about Jason Tatum, but I do want to say I think he's doing the same.
He does have a kid, so
he's doing Jason's doing the same thing. He's trying to get his kid right. He's trying to get his future generations right with that money. But at the same time, I feel like between making $35 million and $50 million, yeah, it looks like it's a big gap. But realistically, in wealth in the world, that's not a big gap. Going from $100,000 to $1 million is a big gap. From $35 million to $50 million, that's pennies, right? If you're talking about it.
I mean, it's also like Detroit doesn't have a chance to win right now, so Cade can take that type of money and not feel bad about it. But like we said, the Boston Celtics are trying to win championships, and if that was on my mind, I would think oh, why would I sign this if it would hinder you guys from signing better players? I can't do that.
Right. Exactly.
So, I mean, hindsight's 50-50. I get why he did it. I mean, it's kind of hard to turn down 350 million if it's right there at the table. I know I wouldn't be able to. But if you're thinking the bigger picture, you probably should have turned it down if you're Jason Tatum.
For sure. For sure.
But moving on to the biggest free agency signing of so far, Paul George signing a 4-year, $212 million max contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. I know you did not want to see him on the 76ers, as you stated on the last podcast. So what's your thoughts now that it finally happened?
I'm going to make it quick. Good for Paul George. Get that bag. I can't believe his agent got him that after the performances we've seen from him the last couple of years. Number two, everyone's saying, oh, Philly's back on top. It's Philadelphia 76ers. It's just like, in my opinion, the New York Knicks. I want the New York Knicks to win as much as any New York fan or any New Yorker, but they have a curse. New York Knicks can only win to a certain extent. For the Philadelphia 76ers, we've seen them choke and choke and choke. We saw them possibly, they were so close back in, I think, what was it, 2019. They were so
2019, yeah.
close to championships.
The shot.
And a 20 bounce shot went in for them to lose. That just shows that they are not meant to win as of right now.
They're cursed.
You can do whatever you want. Either way, you're going to lose. So it's unfortunate, but good for Paul George. Hopefully, he can be the curse breaker, and hopefully put them over that.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone's saying that Philly's going to take down the Celtics, and I agree with Brian Windhorst. He said you should not be so dead set that Paul George gets Philadelphia 76ers over the top, and that is 100% correct. What have we seen from Paul George in the past that shows that he is the piece that the 76ers were missing? In my opinion, nothing. Yeah, he helped the Clippers get back to relevancy, but he never brought them to a championship. He only brought them to one conference finals with Kawhi Leonard. Let that sink in. So what do you think he's going to do with Joel Embiid, who was even more fragile than Kawhi Leonard? He's still going to have to carry the team by himself, which he has shown time and time again that he cannot do. I do not think this signing is going to make the 76ers title contenders, and I won't be surprised if they don't make it past the second round, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Paul George is fragile as is, and then there's Joel Embiid. You can just never trust him. I just don't think that they're going to be as good as people think they will be.
Yeah.
But like you said, good for Paul George signing that contract, and hopefully it works out the way that the 76ers expect it to. But sticking with the 76ers, Tyrese Maxey agreed to a 5-year, $204 million max contract extension. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, great move for him, great move for the 76ers. Is it going to be enough to put them over that hump? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is obviously well-deserved for Tyrese Maxey. I mean, he's a great player. The 76ers just got a lot of holes to fill if they want to win a championship in one of these years. Tyrese Maxey is going to help them win a championship eventually, in my opinion, just not anytime soon, I don't think.
Right.
But moving on to the Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell signed a 3-year, $150.3 million max contract extension with them. What's your thoughts on that, Cavs fan?
So at least we know the direction now, right? We have Donovan Mitchell here for the near future. Let's see what team we can create, can build. Hopefully we can keep Darius. Hopefully we can keep Jared Allen. I understand that we can possibly move Darius. In my opinion, let's keep it together. Darius is probably the best guard, on the market right now by far. It's just hard because we need the depth, right? We can't just solely rely on Karis LeVert on the bench. We need to get that another key wing. We need to get that another key, backup center. So we'll see what we can do. We'll see what kind of move we can do in the offseason. But I like the way, the way our future is. I like the direction we're headed into, and I'm glad we've kept Spida because he is, in my opinion, the top 5 player in the NBA.
Yeah, I agree. That it was much needed to keep Donovan Mitchell. When I saw that they might trade him, I was pretty shocked. I mean, I don't think it would have been smart to trade him. So the fact that he pretty much shut down the rumors by himself after signing, like, I don't want to go anywhere. And
Right.
obviously with his contract, he doesn't want to go anywhere. That's why he signed the contract. And Darius Garland is shutting down the rumors that he's mad that he resigned. He likes Donovan Mitchell as a teammate. He said he was very upset seeing that he was going to be mad if he resigned. So I think they're going to try to run it back. But like you
Yep.
said, going to need to find a few key pieces, specifically on the bench, to push them over to the hump and potentially get into the conference finals, let alone the finals.
I mean, if we get, Max Drews healthy, that was a great signing we had last year. He just needs to be healthy. I mean, Dean Wade, he just needs to be healthy. But here's the thing. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have people go down. Just like the New York Knicks, it's a next man mentality, and they had those key pieces. They had those guys stepping up. It's just unfortunate they just ran out, right? They just ran out of guys stepping up. But for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they didn't have anybody stepping up after those guys got hurt. So that's why we need to add those key pieces, because once people go down, that's when the real adjustments start. And that's why we need those other guys, just so we can be successful when someone possibly does go down.
Right. You just need more depth. I mean, I think that's what you guys were lacking the most last year was depth, and that's what killed you guys specifically against the Celtics. Donovan Mitchell did everything he could. It's just the lack of depth, and then the co-stars weren't showing up the way that they expected as well. So definitely the co-star to step up a little more, and then
Right.
Donnie to continue to do his thing and just continue to stay healthy. But overall, this was a great move for both Donovan Mitchell and the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
But well, we technically already touched on Derek White signing that deal, right?
We did touch on Derek White. Yep.
All right. So we'll go to the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James signing a 2-year, $104 million max deal to return to the Lakers. It's technically a 1+1. It's pretty much a 1-year deal because there was a player option at the end of this year for him. I think he did that on purpose, trying to see what the Lakers will do, if anything, for the rest of free agency. But what's your thoughts on this deal for LeBron?
I mean, it was a good move. Obviously, he wants to play with his son. Obviously, he wasn't going to sign anywhere else after they went ahead and drafted his son. So it was a necessary move. It was the obvious move for him. Like you said, we'll see what happens in the near future because they do need to get more depth. They do need to possibly get rid of D'Lo. They have the same exact team as they did last year as of right now, except for their new additions through the draft. But I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, unfortunately, it was a big contract to where it's going to be very difficult to add those, necessary pieces and those big guys, those star players that you guys so desperately need.
Yeah, so it takes out of the hunt for DeMar DeRozan. It takes out of the hunt for free agents. But we were pretty much already out of the hunt for that as is, even before he signed this deal, because we had way too many vet minimum contracts. Under the new CBA, you can't have more than 3 vet minimum contracts, and we have 3. And you can't pair those more than 2 of those vet min contracts in a trade to salary dump. So we were already pretty much screwed as is with whether LeBron signed this deal or not. Rob hindered us to trading this offseason pretty much. There was no signing free agents. So even with LeBron signing this deal, it doesn't change much. It's just the fact that we, like you said, need roster changes, and it would be very disappointing if we go into the season with the same roster. And even the Lakers are saying that. They're trying to be aggressive. Obviously, it's just the holdup that I've heard is that a lot of teams want both of our first round picks, and Rob is hesitant to give them both of them for the players that we would get in return, which I get. I don't want to overpay either. But if you are trying to win now, sometimes you're going to have to let go of something that you want to keep. And I feel like Rob is too focused on the future rather than winning now, and that is what has been and will continue to hold the Lakers back if he continues to do that.
I agree, and it's unfortunate for LeBron because of you guys have another championship.
I mean, yeah, LeBron wants to win. He said he'd take a pay cut. That shows you how much he wants to win. Rob strikes down on all the guys he said he'd take a pay cut for. He signs this deal. Okay, that's fine. But like, we're doing what we did. We're doing what we did to Kobe to the back end of his career. We're ruining LeBron's legacy if we don't make any changes. Now, that's a big if because we saw a lot of changes come later in the offseason last year with Damian Lillard getting traded in October, etc. So there's still a lot of time. But if we do continue to if we keep the same roster, we are ruining LeBron's legacy. And I just don't understand why the Lakers have a reputation for doing that to the greats.
I agree.
But if I was LeBron personally, I probably would have left knowing that the Lakers don't want to win now. But obviously, as a Lakers fan, I'm very happy he stayed. And hopefully, Rob Pelinka wakes up and makes some major tweaks to the roster that can help us win. But moving on to the Chicago Bulls and Patrick Williams, he intends to sign a 5-year, $90 million deal to return to them. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, good for him. Good young kid, great player. It's just not going to make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. The Bulls are pretty much blowing this up. Zach LaVine and Zach LaVine's relationship with the front office is irreparable, is what they're saying. So he wants out. DeMar DeRozan is visiting the Kings tonight. It's looking like he's most likely going to the Kings based off what I've been hearing. So, I mean, the Bulls are in rebuild mode. I won't be surprised if Lonzo Ball is traded. I won't be surprised if Nikola Vucevic is traded. They're in rebuild mode. They decided to keep Patrick Williams because he is pretty much their franchise cornerstone now. So good for him and good deal for the Bulls, but the Bulls won't be making any noise anytime soon.
Yeah. I do agree that who knows? Maybe you guys can get, DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine still.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I hope Rob does something because, as I said, the roster as is not championship contenders.
For sure.
But moved on to a team that is a championship contender and just made themselves even more of a championship contender with this signing of Isaiah Hartenstein agreeing on a 3-year, $87 million deal with the Thunder. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great added depth at the center position, which they needed. Added size, great interior defensive player, great rebounder. The only thing is, the downside for the Knicks, in my opinion, they needed him, and it was unfortunate for them. But good signing for him, and signing to a great contending team.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't surprised that he left. I mean, they signed OG Anunoby. They were traded for Mikal Bridges. They have a lot of money to hand out over there, but they definitely need to go out and get a center. By they, I mean the Knicks, of course, after Hartenstein left them, because Mitchell Robinson is great, but the problem with him is he can't stay healthy. So they're going to need to go out and get a center sometime soon before the season starts. But for Isaiah Hartenstein, this is a great signing for him. He went out and got his bag after a great year with the New York Knicks. And for the Thunder, I wouldn't say it pushed them over the top, but at least pushed them to conference finals bound, in my opinion, because last year, as I said, what they were lacking the most was size, and they dealt with that by signing Isaiah Hartenstein.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do agree. They added that depth. They added that size that they so desperately needed. Here's the thing for me: it's not going to be enough. Not one
for finals or for conference finals.
That's a good question.
Because I think they can at least go to the conference finals now. I don't see them making the finals yet, though.
Depending on the seeding, obviously.
Right.
Depending on if you guys make any moves.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys make moves, you guys are easily beating them in 5 to 6 games. Denver makes a move. I think, Russell Westbrook is, on Denver's mind. I think that's a great piece they could add, especially losing KCP. Could be a problem. 2 teams, in my opinion, that are going to get better are Minnesota T-Wolves and the team that went to the finals this year. The Dallas Mavericks are not losing, okay? I have them winning the finals this year.
Really?
I'm saying it right now. I don't care what moves anyone else makes. Klay Thompson is going to have a bounce back year. Luka Magic is going to do Luka Magic things. Kyrie Irving is going to be Kyrie, Uncle Drew. Yeah, you lost, who did they lose? Powell. They lost a couple other guys, right?
Derek Jones Jr.,
Derek Jones
Josh
Jr.,
Green.
right? Josh Green, yeah. But they kept lively. They have their core guys. They have a couple other pieces they added on. I think that team alone is not losing. You're not losing with those three guys.
Yeah, I mean, the West is very loaded. Let's just put it that way. It has been for years, and it will continue. It will only continue to get better. So that's why the Thunder did make this move, I believe. But if they do meet the Mavericks in the conference finals, yeah, I agree. The Mavericks would beat them still.
Yeah.
But moving back over to the Magic with Jonathan Isaac agreeing on a 5-year, $84 million contract extension. What's your thoughts on that?
Who?
Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah, good for him. With
Yeah.
the Magic, who is it with?
Yeah, with the Magic.
Again, they're a great young team. Keeping these core guys together is the right move. For their future.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was the right move for them. I was just surprised he honestly got this much of a deal and this much money solely because not because of his potential. He's a great basketball player, solely because of his injury history. That is what would have scared me if I was the Magic.
Yeah, that is a problem. But if they're confident that he's going to stay healthy, then yeah, he deserves this money.
Yeah, 100%. Moving on to Miles Bridges today, agreeing to a 3-year, $75 million deal to return to the Hornets. There was rumors that he would leave. Obviously, he couldn't find a better deal, so he decided to go back to the Hornets. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think anyone wanted him, especially with the allegations he's had with the problems he's had in the past. It's a great extension for them because he is a great player. It's great because him and LaMelo have such great chemistry. So when LaMelo gets back, those two are going to be solid. Are they going to win anything? No, but I think they are building on something, right? They still have Miles, they still have LaMelo, they still have Brandon Miller. So they are building for the future. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was the right move for Miles Bridges and for the Hornets. They're not a terrible team. Obviously, they're not the best team either. But if they continue to build these key pieces around them and continue to build around LaMelo Ball, they could potentially be a playing team in a year or two. They weren't far off. Not last year, the year before, they weren't far off. It's just last year, obviously, LaMelo Ball continued to get hurt. They're going to need him to stay healthy to see their full potential.
Yeah.
But overall, good signing for both the Hornets and Miles Bridges. Now, getting to, as we touched on, Klay Thompson agreeing to a 3-year, $50 million deal to join the Dallas Mavericks through a 3-team signing trade. Josh Green was sent to the Hornets in this signing trade, and then 2 second-round picks back to the Warriors. So obviously, Gio thinks, we heard his thoughts, that they're going to win a championship. So anything to elaborate on that thought?
Yeah. Let's talk about the whole move, because I think obviously great for the Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to see this deal done though, right?
I don't think any basketball fan wanted to see Klay Thompson leave the Warriors, even though we knew it was going to happen.
I wanted him and Steph Curry to retire pretty much together. I wanted the 3 big guys, him, Steph, Klay, Steph, and Dre, to retire together.
I mean, Draymond even said that he shed a tear when Klay told him. So that just shows you how much they mean to each other.
Well, they're brothers, right? They grew up in the league. They won together. They sacrificed together. It wasn't unexpected, but
No,
it was definitely
it's
terrible to
it's
see.
just hard to face. It's hard to face the reality. Let's just put it that way.
I wouldn't quite say it's hard to face the reality of him leaving. It's because I grasped it. I grasped it, and I understand why he left. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We all understand why he left.
Right.
And that's why I can see him leaving. The fact of the matter is, why do you see teams throwing bags to these other guys, right? Yet
Hmm.
you won't see the Golden State Warriors throw it back to Klay Thompson, who sacrificed so much. Yeah, he got an extension when he was hurt, but he deserves an extension now. He deserves all the money that they could throw to him because he did help them win 4 championships. That's four. That is four. Not a lot of teams won 4 championships in the altogether, let alone in the time span that they won theirs.
Yep. I mean, I don't know why the Warriors didn't extend him. I think it was a pretty messed up situation they had over there with Klay Thompson and the Warriors front office. I mean, he signed this deal, but he also had deals for 4 years and 80 million potentially, and he turned those down for the chance to win. If those teams were willing to give him that money, why aren't you? What's the difference between those teams and you? Like, what did you see that those teams didn't see in Klay Thompson?
But
Because
but then
obviously, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but then again, it is probably more than basketball. It's more than the money.
Well, yeah, so what
But
I was going to say is that
sports,
it was the money because they offered him a lot of money in their mind, but Clay wanted more. And it's also what I saw is that he got worse than Draymond Green in the locker room, and they just couldn't handle that anymore.
I feel like he just wasn't happy. Draymond Green
Right.
put it simply that he was not happy on the bench. He lost the love of the game, and all he wants to do is find that love again in Dallas. Um, I really think he just wanted to play with Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, rather than get a bag somewhere else, like say Orlando. Um, it's just an unfortunate situation. That's
Yeah,
all.
definitely. Obviously, it was time for both of them to move on, though, and it was a great move for the Mavericks to get Klay Thompson. I mean, him alongside Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, I can definitely see them going back to the finals and potentially getting over their hump this time, as Gio said. I mean, they were missing a few key pieces, and they addressed those key pieces perfectly in the offseason. So I think they're set up for success for many years to come.
Yep.
But as I said, the Warriors did not take long to replace Klay Thompson. They agreed to a sign and trade with the 76ers for Buddy Hield, and the Warriors sent the 76ers a second round pick. So, what's your thoughts on that deal?
Easy. I mean, this is probably the most seamless move the Golden State Warriors could have made. You get Klay Thompson pretty much with Buddy Hield.
I
He's
mean, Buddy, and
second most
just
made
put it,
3 pointers in the league behind Steph Curry right now
yeah,
since
that,
2016. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, to put it in perspective, you have the two best 3-point shooters in the entire league on one team now. So, like that just makes them that much more dangerous.
right.
But yeah, this is a great. I mean, like you said, they replaced Klay Thompson perfectly. They also got DeAnthony Melton and Kyle Anderson, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But they honestly replaced Klay Thompson perfectly. Obviously, losing Klay Thompson hurt them. But what they have done after losing Klay Thompson, getting Buddy Hield and those others, they made up for it, in my opinion.
Sure.
Um, but we'll see if it's enough to win in a very, very tough Western Conference. But moving on to James Harden signing a 2-year, $70 million deal to return to the Los Angeles Clippers. What's your thoughts on that deal?
Yeah. Good move for him. Good move for the Clippers. Hopefully they can, do something. If Kawhi Leonard stays healthy, there'll be a problem. If not, then this move was, pointless.
Yeah, I agree. I think James Harden and Kawhi Leonard are a good duo. Are they championship level duo? No, I don't think they're going to ever win a championship anytime soon. Mainly because of Kawhi's health. I don't ever see him staying healthy for an entire season. And if he does stay healthy for the entire season, then eventually he's going to fall in the playoffs because it's just how his body is made. It's not made for more than I'd say like 70 games, which is what he usually plays. So I just don't think that they'll ever win anytime soon. But obviously the the right choice to keep James Harden with him, as they lost Paul George. So they had to keep one of those two. Decided to keep James Harden, and hopefully they can win in the years to come.
Well, not hopefully, right? Because you want to see the Clippers lose as many games as possible.
Yeah, which I think I will this upcoming year. But for NBA fan perspective, those
Yeah,
Clippers fans over there, hopefully they can still win even without Paul George.
right.
But I mean, they'll still be top 6, but it might be bottom 6 instead of top 6 like they used to be.
Right.
But moving on to the Magic again. As I touched on earlier, they did sign Contavious Caldwell-Pope to a 3-year, $66 million deal. What's your thoughts on this, Gio?
This is a great move. Like I said, they kept their young core. They're adding depth to their team. Just that can definitely help them. He's a two-time champion. He understands what it takes to win a championship. Can definitely help these young guys prepare for the playoffs. Adds experience to that team. Who knows? Maybe they can make some noise in the Eastern Conference. Definitely second round in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe they can shock me, go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and anything can happen from there on. So,
yeah, I agree. I think this was a great signing. They lacked shooting last year, and KCP is a great shooter, as we know. They also lack defense. He's a great defender, so it's a great signing for them. And they also lacked veteran presence, in my opinion. And Contavious Caldwell-Pope is a great veteran presence, as you said. He's a 2-time NBA champion. He knows what it takes to win, and the Magic obviously want to win. So I think this is a great signing for both sides.
for sure.
But moving on to Robin Hood, as Gio likes to call him, Tobias Harris agreeing on a 2-year, $52 million deal with the Detroit Pistons. In my opinion, if he's Robin, then his agent is Batman. But what's your thoughts?
Well, he's not Robin per se. Okay, I say he's Robin Hood because he's stealing, bro. He is stealing from the rich. I'm
Yeah,
not saying he's getting it to the poor, but he's still stealing from the rich, which is crazy.
Which is why his agent is Batman, because his agent continues to get him these deals, man.
Yeah. You can say that, but I mean, it's just insane. What has he done to deserve this kind of contract in the last couple of years? It blows my mind. But good for him.
We saw him.
Maybe he can turn this around.
When I saw this deal, I was surprised. First, going back to Detroit, I did not expect him to go back to Detroit. And secondly, getting this much money. Like, we saw him put up 0 points in an elimination game. And Detroit's like, oh, yeah, we'll throw you 2 years, $52 million based off that. Sounds good. Like, bro, what?
Right.
Like, this is, I mean, obviously Detroit, as we know, bottom of the barrel. Makes sense why they would do this. But good for him making this type of money on the type of career he's had. And hopefully, as you said, he can turn it around with the Detroit Pistons.
For sure.
I mean, he wasn't terrible with them last time, which is why the 76ers gave him that horrendous contract. So maybe Detroit is where he belongs.
Yeah, maybe.
But moving on to Jonas Valanciunas agreeing to a 3-year, $30 million deal to sign with the Washington Wizards. What's your thoughts on that deal?
Again, same thing with the Pistons. Not going anywhere. Good for him to get that bag. Probably just wants to secure, that for his future with his family and whatnot. So good for him getting that bag. Hopefully he can have some fun out there in Washington, do some different stuff that he's probably not accustomed to. Playing with a winning squad. So I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see what he does, and good for him.
Yeah, I agree. Not a league shaking move at all. I was pretty surprised that he decided to go to the Wizards with all the winning teams that were in pursuit of him. I guess he doesn't really care about winning. He obviously cares more about the money at this point in his career. So congrats on him for making that deal. And as you said, the Wizards aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
Right.
Moving on to Jerick Jones Jr. signing a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Clippers. Obviously, I would think that he would slot into small forward and replace Paul George. So, what's your thoughts on that deal?
Yeah, Derrick Jones Jr. is a great piece. We saw him what he did with the Dallas Mavericks last year. Piece for them, so that adds depth for them. He's not going to be able to, uh, replace Paul George on the Clippers, but that is a great move for them and for himself as well, to where hopefully he can help them win and move forward to that that team goal and aspiration of winning a championship.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, no one's going to replace Paul George. Let's just put it that way. Paul George is a generational talent, so they did their best with what they had to try and replace him. And Derrick Jones Jr. was their best option, so that's why they did that. Which I think it was a great signing. You have to, it's business. You have to deal with what you got, and that's what they did. So I think that's a great signing for the Clippers and for Derrick Jones Jr. But we'll see if he can help them win in the years to come. And I think he will be a key piece for them, not only this year, but for years to come.
For sure.
But moving back to the Warriors, signing Kyle Anderson to a 3-year, $27 million deal through another signing trade with the Timberwolves this time. The Timberwolves received a future second-round pick swap as well as some cash for Kyle Anderson. So what's your thoughts on that deal?
Great added depth, great defender, great, veteran for the Warriors to add. Definitely a championship type of guy. So good for them, good for him. And hopefully, this can help them with their aspirations of winning the championship as well.
Yeah, I agree. I was honestly surprised that Timberwolves moved Kyle Anderson because he was a key piece for them last year. So I was surprised when I saw this. But as you said, great added piece for the Warriors. They get another shooter, which they love, and they get another scrappy defender, which they also lacked last year. So he will be a great addition for them, and hopefully they can not only make the playoffs this year, but make some noise in the playoffs.
That's right.
But moving on to another signing for the Mavericks, Najee Marshall signing a 3-year, $27 million deal. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great added depth piece. Like I said, they added some great depth to replace those pieces they lost. So, I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're only going to get better. So, good for them on getting these key pieces in the offseason so far, and hopefully they can make some more moves.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did this to replace Josh Green, who they lost in that Klay Thompson signing trade. And Najee Marshall is a great addition for them. Great three-point shooter, great defender, just like Josh Green. So he's pretty much taken over that Josh role that was voided after the signing trade for Klay Thompson. So definitely a great signing for both Najee Marshall and the Mavericks.
For sure.
And then Mo Wagner, as I said, agreed to 2 years, $22 million deal with the Magic. You pretty much gave your thoughts, but anything you want to elaborate on?
On who? Oh, Mo.
Mo, yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad they kept the brothers together. You always like to see that, especially in a business type, like the NBA. So good for him. Good for, the Magic to see that and how important it is for Franz's probably mental health, for Mo's mental health. And then also they provide great minutes. They're both great talents for the Magic. So it's not just like they're just signing this to keep Franz happy. Mo's a great player. He deserves the money. He deserves a spot on, that rotation. So good for them.
Yeah, I agree. Mo Wagner's a great player for them, which is why they re-signed him. And a lot of teams were after him before they re-signed him because he's a great role player. It's not like he's the Thanasis Antetokounmpo getting signed because his brother's on the team. So, he's very good, and he's a great role player for the Magic. And congrats to him on this deal, and a great deal for both him and for the Magic.
For sure.
Now, the Warriors did waive Chris Paul, but as I said, Chris Paul then signed with the Spurs for a 1-year, $11 million deal for a chance to play with Victor Wembanyama. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, his career is pretty much dead, dead in the water right now. But good for him, good for the Spurs to do this because he can help a lot. He's a great basketball-minded player. The Spurs definitely needed a player and a veteran, presence for them, right, for Victor. And he's definitely going to help Victor out, grow as an NBA player. and he's definitely going to help the team out. I don't see them winning too much, but I definitely see them winning more than they did last year and possibly making some noise in the West.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chris Paul was a great signing for them. I think it's also less pressure on Chris Paul at this point in his career, which I think is what he needs, just like Klay Thompson, why he left the Warriors. I think he needs less pressure. He needs to just play basketball, and he's at the Spurs. He can do that. I mean, him and Victor Wembanyama, just thinking about it is intriguing. It's going to be very, very exciting to watch. I know me personally, I'll be smashing the overs on Chris Paul assists because I can just imagine how many times he's going to pass it to Victor Wembanyama
Right.
or alley it. It's going to be
Yep.
absolutely insane to watch. I think Chris Paul is a great veteran presence, like you said, and I still think obviously the Spurs are a few years away from being in contention, but Chris Paul could potentially push them into the play-in, and who knows, maybe they make the playoffs as the 8th seed and see what they can do from there.
For sure.
But moving on to some coaching deals to wrap up the podcast, JB Bickerstaff did agree on a 5-year deal to become the Detroit Pistons head coach. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's a great coach. I don't think we should have let him go, but I do believe he understands how to turn around a franchise that is, a bottom tier franchise. So he's got the experience for that. Definitely can help out, the Pistons. So we'll see what he does.
Yeah, I agree. As I said previously, I was very surprised that the Cavs let him go when they did, after all the success he had. I still don't think that any coach can turn around the Pistons the way the roster is built right now. So until they get their roster set, it's going to be very hard for them to win. But if anyone can help them win or improve, because all they want to do is improve right now, I
Right.
think JB Bickerstaff is the guy for that. I mean, look at the Cavs before or after LeBron James left, right after LeBron James left, and before JB Bickerstaff, they were in the dumps. But when JB came, they came back to relevancy. So I think he can do the same thing for the Detroit Pistons.
For sure.
And then to wrap it up, the Lakers did finally hire some top assistants for JJ Redick's staff in Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks. So, what's your thoughts on those two hires?
I love these signings. Especially Scott Brooks. I'm fortunate because he was the Wizards. I mean, such a great coach in my opinion. For him to be added on to onto a coaching staff and not be a head coach is a testament to his, to himself, because he could, in my opinion, could be a head coach anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree. I think these are two great hires. JJ wanted two experienced coaches on his staff. He checked those boxes with both of these hires. I mean, both of them were ex-head coaches, successful ex-head coaches. I mean, Nate McMillan turned the Hawks around. Scott Brooks,
Yep.
after he left the Wizards, it's no coincidence why they've been in the bottom of the barrel, because Scott Brooks made that team the way it was. So two great hires for the Lakers, and hopefully JJ Redick can learn from them and be just as good as them in the years to come, including this year.
For sure, but you got to look at it too. He understands how to win and go to the finals. No shade to Dave, right?
Who are you talking about? Which one has?
Um, who's the other guy they signed?
Nate McMillan?
Yeah, Nate. Yeah, no shade to him, but Scott brought the OKC Thunder to a finals when it was Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. He understands how to reach the finals. Nate doesn't, in my opinion.
Yeah, but
Right? Even
I
though he's
think
a great
that's
coach.
I think that's why they brought in Scott Brooks with Nate McMillan, because they knew that Nate McMillan by himself wouldn't be experienced enough. They needed another one.
Right, and that's why Scott Brooks, in my opinion, is probably the best hire anyone could make right now, is because he understands how to get to the finals. If you give him a roster that is a contender, him alone can get your team to the finals. Not including JJ Redick and his great, basketball mind. So
Yeah, I agree. When I saw these hires, I really liked them, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come for what the Lakers continue to do in the majority of the rest of the offseason.
for sure.
But any sneaker news over there?
Any sneaker news? Not right now, per se. but I do want to touch on the fact that Wimbledon is going on right now. Obviously, big tennis guy. Francis Tiafoe had a heartbreaking match against Alcaraz. It was unfortunate. It was a 5-setter. He could have beat him in 4 sets. Went to a tiebreaker. Unfortunately, he lost the tiebreaker in the 4th set to win the match. Goes to a 5th set, and the rest is history. Alcaraz wins. He's a great player to begin with, and that's why he's I want to say top 3 in the world right now. But also we got a lot of great Italians in there. We got Sinner. We had Berrettini, where they both played each other. There's another one out there. We also have some great Americans. We still have, I believe, Taylor Fritz is still out there. A couple of other young kids. On the women's side, either way, you're going to have an American reach. I believe it's the semi or quarterfinals, because Coco Gauff has to reach the semi. Then she has to play another American. Then after that, right, you're going to have an American reach the quarters or the semis either way on one side of it. So congratulations to the women's American side of it. So yeah, that's what's going on in the tennis world right now. We're reaching the back end of the Wimbledon. So go ahead and watch the round of 16, and quarters, semis, and then obviously the championships next Sunday and Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, sir. Before I get into the video game news, I would like to pay props to Kemba Walker, one of the greatest point guards in basketball history. He did decide to retire this past week, so just want to say congratulations on a great career. And he did also get hired as an assistant coach on Steve Clifford's staff for the Hornets already. So congrats on that, and congrats on a great career, and you will always be remembered as Cardiac Kemba.
For sure.
Then, as you guys know, College Football 25 is dropping July 19th. If you guys pre-order it right now, you can get minus 10% off on every version. And if you pre-order the deluxe version like myself, you can play July 15th at 4 p.m. You will not have to wait till July 19th at midnight. Instead, you will be able to play at July 15th at 4 p.m. So if you want to get a head start, go ahead and pre-order that. And I think it's going to be a great game, and I highly recommend that you pre-order any version that you want, but specifically the deluxe version if you want to get a head start.
For sure.
And thank y'all for watching. See y'all in the next one.
Hey, guys. Nick says down in the comment section. You already know that, though. Go ahead and look for him down there. Write anything you want. If you guys agree with anything we said, if you guys want us to talk about anything on the next podcast, go right ahead and say that. We definitely look down there and look at those. If you guys like this podcast, make sure to hit that thumbs up. We really appreciate it. And like Two Wise Men once said, subscribe. We'll see you all in the next one. Peace.
Peace.